Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be reading Tangerine by Edward Bloor, and we're picking up where we left off on page 237. Monday, November 27th. Today was supposed to be the day. Mom insisted that I stay home, although I told her that I felt fine. I thought about Eric all day, about Eric and Arthur. At 10 a.m., I thought to myself, Eric and Arthur have no idea at this moment that they're going to face Luis again this afternoon, and that this time he won't be alone. At noon, I thought the same thing, and I thought it again at 2. I wondered if Eric would walk through the kitchen door with his eyes swollen and black, or with his nose broken. I wondered what kinds of questions Mom would ask him, and would he answer them? I figured that Eric and Arthur would take the time to make up a mutual lie, like they had gotten jumped by 10 guys from Tangerine High School, maybe the same guys who had vandalized our neighborhood. That sounded a whole lot better than the truth, that their own teammates despised them so much that they helped a stranger beat them up. Anyway, Eric did walk through the kitchen door, but something, obviously, had gone wrong. He went straight to the refrigerator and grabbed a can of soda. I looked right at his face. There wasn't a mark on him. It hadn't happened. Something had gone wrong. I was disappointed, but still confident. Something had gone wrong, that was all. I sat down at the kitchen table and tried to think. Could it still happen to Eric and Arthur? When? How? Then it came to me. Yes, it could still happen. It could happen on Friday, outside of the senior awards night. If Luis asks me about another time and place, that's what I'll tell him. Mom walked in with the phone. I hadn't even heard it ring. She said, "Not too long, please. I have calls to make before the homeowners meeting tonight." I pressed the button. Hello? Hi, Paul. It's Gary. I held the phone out at arm's length. Then I shook my head like a wet dog trying to clear my thoughts. I finally said, Hi. Yeah, hi. I figured you were never going to call me, so I decided to call you. Look, I'm sorry. I've been meaning to call you. I held my hands out in a gesture she never would see. I just didn't. Well, that's okay. Do you want to talk to me now? Sure. I guess the last time I saw you was at the soccer game. You guys have a really great team. Thanks. I think it's great that you have girls and boys. Yeah, it was great. Did you see the paper yesterday? I sure did. 3 girls from our team made all-county. I saw that, yeah. Did you see that thing about planting a tree for Mike Costello? Uh-huh. Are you going to go? It's Friday night. Oh, yeah, I'm going. Because I'm going too. Oh, yeah? Yeah. There was a pause, and then she said, Joey is having some kids over to his house afterward. Would you like to come with me as my date? I didn't hesitate at all. I said, Sure. Great. I added, Thanks for asking me. Sure thing. Does Joey know that you're asking me? Oh, yeah, he knows. He says we can ride over there with him and Kara. I had a sudden crazy picture in my head. Could Joey be listening to this? Could he be on the extension? Mom came in and pointed at the clock. I said, I'm sorry, I have to go. I'll see you at the gym on Friday. Okay, great. Bye. Bye. Mom said, Who is that? Carrie Gardner from Lake Windsor Middle School. We're going over to Joey's house on Friday night after the ceremony. Mom took in this information. She waited, I guess, for more, but I didn't say anything else, so she started making her calls to the homeowners. It didn't sound like too many were interested in her meeting. Mr. Costello arrived first at about 8 o'clock. I answered the door and let him in. He gave me a friendly greeting as usual. I claimed my seat in the alcove at Dad's IBM. I pulled up the Eric Scholarship Offers file as Mom and Mr. Costello settled into the living room. Dad has been working on the file again. He has added the names and phone numbers of the Scouts and Alumni boosters from 3 Florida schools, people like Mr. Donnelly and Larry and Frank. He has also noted that a, quote, press packet from the Times has been sent to those schools. He hasn't added anything more to the other page 1 schools, and get this, the page 2 schools are gone, deleted, trash canned. The Houston schools and any other non-contenders for the national title are gone. They have no place in the Eric Fisher football dream. I clicked out of the file and started listening to the meeting. Mom was taking notes as Mr. Costello rattled off a series of items. A Rolex watch, a diamond stick pin, a 24-karat gold bracelet. I logged off and walked into the great room. Mom didn't suggest that I leave, so I joined them. I asked, What are you writing down, Mom? Mom looked at me with a pained expression. Was I being a pain? These are the items that were stolen from the tented houses. Dad came in and sat in one of the folding chairs. He didn't say anything to us. He didn't even look at us. It was like we weren't there. He just stared straight ahead at the fireplace like he was waiting for it to flame on. The doorbell rang, so I went to answer it. I let in a group of 4 homeowners. Mom suggested that they begin the meeting right away since no other people were expected. It was smaller and friendlier than most homeowners' meetings. The 8 of us listened as Mr. Costello read the financial reports. Then he turned to the old business. We have good news on a couple of fronts. All I can say is, thank God for that freeze. It killed off all the mosquitoes, so we were able to cancel that guy with the gas mask and the sprayer. Mom said, thank God is right. The freeze also signals the end of the thunderstorm season. This is the fact that Mrs. Fisher and I have both brought to Bill Donnelly's attention. We have suggested a compromise to him, that he remove his string of lightning rods for now and put them back up next summer. He has agreed to think about it. The man from the yellow tutor asked, what's about the termites? Well, the freeze might have helped us there, too. I just don't know. 3 houses have tents now, which makes a total of 25 so far in the development. And the robberies? Mr. Costello nodded solemnly. There were 2 more robberies of tented houses since our last meeting. In both cases, robbers smashed a window, ran in, and ran out with cash and jewelry. The deputies say they have some leads, but that's all they're willing to tell us at this point. The same man said, I saw a guy sitting outside a tented house with a shotgun. Everyone reacted to that, and he continued, he's one of your neighbors, Jack. He's sitting outside in a lawn chair all night long with a shotgun across his lap. Mr. Costello said, thanks for telling me. I'll talk to him. If that doesn't do any good, I'll have the sheriff's department talk to him. We can't have that. Everyone agreed. He's going to wind up shooting some late-night jogger. The woman from the White York asked, what about the front, Jack? That's looking kind of run down. The front is looking bad because of the freeze. Those plants are supposed to be cold hardy, but nothing is going to come through a freeze like that completely undamaged. The same woman asked, did the freeze kill off the rest of your fish? No, we can't blame the freeze for that. Those koi are cold hardy. The pond could freeze a foot thick and they'd be okay under the ice. We believe some local person stole them and sold them. I said, I don't believe that. They all turned and stared at me as if they had just noticed that I was sitting there. Then they all turned back. They were about to ignore me and go on when I added, that doesn't make any sense. They turned to me again. Think about it. How could some local person, some koi thief from Tangerine, stop at the front of our development in that wide open space without anyone seeing him? How could he fish for, catch, and drive away with a string of big, orange, shiny fish with no one seeing him? Mr. Costello answered, I don't know, Paul. Maybe because he does it in the middle of the night when we are asleep. Anyway, it's the only theory we have, unless you have a better one. The ospreys, I said. They all stared at me blankly. The ospreys, the birds of prey from those giant nests out on Route 89, they swoop down, snatch up the koi, and fly back to their nests. No one sees them, no one thinks about them, and no one suspects them. Mr. Costello seemed annoyed. They all did. He said, you've seen this happen? I've seen them flying west with the fish in their talons. How do you know they were our fish? Well, they were big and orange and shiny. They all looked at each other. No one spoke. Finally, Mom said to me, Paul, if you knew about this, why didn't you ever tell anyone? No one asked me. She looked at me with a pained expression again. Is there anything else that we should ask you about? What do you mean? Do you know anything about the robberies? No. Are you sure? Yes. Mom nodded. She believed me. The rest of them now seemed to be waiting for me to leave, so I got up. She winked at me and said, thanks. Good night. As I started out, I heard one of the homeowners ask, did anybody see that Eyewitness News team report on the sinkhole? The one where they found out the county never surveyed the construction site? Why can't we get that Eyewitness News team out here? They can shoot pictures of the muck fire. We show them to the county and demand action. The guy looked around for support and nobody moved. He added, and if that doesn't work, we can sue the county. Mr. Costello half smiled and pointed at Dad. We'd be suing our host here. Dad jumped to his feet and gestured for the crowd's attention. He looked absolutely frazzled. I want you all to know something. I am determined to change things. That sort of nonsense, an unsurveyed construction site, will never happen again in this county. I can't change the past, but I'm putting some big changes in place for now and for the future. The homeowners listened, then turned to other matters. I continued on upstairs. I have to wonder about Dad, though. He was a wreck just now. He was coming unglued. What is going on in his head? Tuesday, November 28th. Luis Cruz is dead. When I walked into first period this morning, there was a group of kids standing around and whispering. Henry D. came up to me and said, "Did you hear what happened?" No. Tino and Teresa were waiting outside yesterday for Luis to pick them up, but he never came. Teresa called home and told their father. He went out into the grove and found Luis lying there dead. Found him what? Dead, right out in the new grove. I stared at Henry like he was crazy. Dead? Are you saying that Luis is dead? That's right. Their father called 911. Wayne was one of the guys on call. He said Luis was dead when they got there, that he had been dead for hours. Dead? Dead of what? Wayne said it might have been an aneurysm, like a blood clot. He thinks that Luis got hit on the head. It formed into a blood clot, and that killed him. My mind was racing in circles. I finally said, "What? Someone hit Luis on the head and killed him?" No. Wayne said the sheriff's deputies don't think it was a murder or anything like that. They think Luis might have gotten hit on the head last Wednesday night when all those frozen tree branches were breaking off. They think maybe one of the branches hit him on the head and started that aneurysm thing going, but they don't know anything for sure. I put my hand over my mouth, afraid that I would throw up. I whispered, "He got hit on the head on Wednesday night?" They don't know that. They're saying just maybe. 1 shot to the head 5, 6 days ago? How is that going to kill anybody? Henry could see how upset I was getting, and he didn't reply. I mean, you should see these guys in the kung fu movies getting hit on the head 1,000 times, and they keep on fighting, right? Right. I raised my hand and got Miss Pollard's attention. I said, "I gotta go. I'm sick again." I hurried into the hall. I pushed past the stream of kids all the way to the office. I asked to use the phone and left a quick message for Mom. "Come back right away. I'm sick again." An aide led me into the sterile black and white room that turned out to be the nurse's office. I slumped down into a black chair and I waited there. Dry-eyed, speechless, numb. Mom returned at 9 o'clock to sign me out. She told Dr. Johnson I guess we sent him back to school too early. I rode home in a painful trance. Finally, when we pulled into our development, Mom said, "This cold of yours is really bad. It's really persistent." I nodded slowly. Yeah, I thought. How could she believe that? How could she believe that I am in the 6th day of a severe cold when I have not coughed or sneezed even one time? Has it even occurred to her that this isn't the truth? That I might be making it all up? Probably not. I decided to share part of the truth with her. I said, "Luis Cruz is dead." She thought for a moment. "Who, honey?" "Luis Cruz. He's Tino and Teresa's brother. He was at the Grove the day you drove me out there. I guess you didn't see him. He came to nearly all of our soccer games, but I guess you didn't see him there either. He used to pick tangerines on Merritt Island. He injured his knee doing that. He played goalie for Tangerine Middle School. He invented a new variety of citrus. Then a tree branch broke off and hit him on the head." I looked over at Mom. She was nodding sympathetically. Did she want to hear more? Maybe the whole truth? Did she want to hear anything bad? Should I come right out and say, "Actually, Mom, he wasn't killed by a tree branch. He was killed by Arthur Bauer on orders from Eric"? What would she do if she heard that? Would she swerve into a utility pole? Or would she do what she always did back in Houston? Take my temperature and threaten to call the doctor? I didn't say anything else. When I got into the house, I went straight to Dad's IBM and logged on. I put in a CD-ROM called Health Text and searched for aneurysm. I found out that it's not a blood clot at all. It's a weakening of a blood vessel, like a little bubble that swells out from a vein or an artery. That's all there was about it, so I got online and searched for a medical homepage. The Tangerine County Medical Center listed one called Ask a Nurse. I got into it and typed, "Can you get an aneurysm from an injury to the head?" I received a reply right away. "No, you are either born with an aneurysm or you are born with the tendency to get one." I typed in, "Can an aneurysm kill you?" "Yes. An aneurysm can burst, causing a massive stroke and death. What could cause it to burst? The aneurysm gradually deteriorates due to the constant pressure of the blood passing through it. Could an injury to the head cause it to burst? Yes. An injury to the head could further weaken the aneurysm and cause it to burst. Would this happen right away, or could it happen a week later? It could happen right away, or a week after the injury, or a month after, depending on the condition of the aneurysm. I typed in "thank you" and logged off. I had my answer. Luis had been killed by Arthur Bauer on Tuesday, but it had taken 6 days for him to die. That shot from the blackjack had been just as deadly to Luis as a shot from a gun. I went upstairs and lay on my bed until 3:30. Then I called Henry D. "Henry, what else did you hear about Luis?" "I haven't heard anything new from Wayne. I did hear from Dolly that Luis's funeral is going to be on Thursday at noon." "Oh, all right. I'll be there. Do you think the whole team will go?" "I expect so. They all knew Luis. A lot of us owed Luis for things. A lot of us got rides from him in that truck of his." "Yeah. Look, if you hear anything else, anything at all, especially from Wayne, will you please give me a call?" "I sure will." At dinner time, Mom knocked lightly on my door and brought in some vegetable soup, and a basket of rolls. I pretended to be asleep. She put them down quietly and started to leave, but she turned and saw that my eyes were open. She said, "How are you feeling, Paul? How is that cold of yours?" I didn't answer, so she just smiled and weakly and continued out. Wednesday, November 29th. I stayed out of school again today. I got dressed at about 10 and went out back to sit for a while. Mom came out with the telephone and handed it to me. "Another girl," she said. "A different one." I waited until she went back in to press the button. "Hello? Paul Fisher?" "Yes?" "This is Teresa Cruz." "Teresa, I'm really sorry to hear about what happened." She interrupted me. Her tone was all business. "Yeah, I know that. Look, I have to tell you something. Don't you be coming to Luis's funeral." I stammered, okay? "Henry says you're talking about coming, but Tino and Victor and those guys are saying some bad stuff, so you had better not show your face at Luis's funeral. I'm calling to tell you that." All right. "I don't want any more bad stuff to happen, especially not at the funeral." "No, of course not. So I'm just telling you." Then she hung up. I sat there with my mouth wide open. They knew everything. Teresa, Tino, Tomas and his brother, Victor and the others, they all knew the truth. They knew that Luis came looking for Eric last Tuesday. And they knew what happened to him at school. They knew that he didn't get hit by any frozen tree branch. How did they know? I jumped up and hurried through the gate to the front of the house. I turned left and headed down the sidewalk. I had to get away. I had to think. My mind was racing with questions. Did Luis tell someone about it? Of course he did. If he told me about it, he told other people too. Did I really think I could keep this a secret from them all? Does everybody in Tangerine blame me now? Am I just as guilty as Eric? I was all the way down at the entrance pond before I stopped. I stood there and stared at the dark water until I finally understood. And it was so very simple. There's no big mystery here. The truth about Luis is obvious to all of the people around him. Their lives are not made up of bits and pieces of versions of the truth. They don't live that way. They know what really happened, period. Why would that seem so mysterious to me? I sat on the bank and stared at the lifeless water. After a few minutes, I heard a noise behind me, and I turned. A little boy on a little bike had pulled up about 10 feet away. He looked to be about 5 years old. Not old enough to be out on the road by himself. He sat there, staring at me, astride his red 20-inch bike. Then he pointed at the pond and said, "They say there's a gator in there." I looked back at the pond. I wanted him to leave, but he went on. "They say a gator came out of there last year and ate a kid." I turned back to him. "Oh yeah? Who says that?" "My mom and dad." I shook my head. "Well, forget it. That didn't happen." He shook his head right back. "My mom and dad said it did." I thought about that. I thought about my own mom and dad, and I looked him right in the eye. Then they're lying to you. They're telling you a story just so they can keep you scared. They want you to be scared. Do you understand? He stiffened. "My mom and dad don't tell me stories." I rose up onto my knees so that we were eye to eye. "Oh no? Did they ever tell you a story about a kid who went swimming right after he ate and he got cramps and he drowned? Yeah. Well, did you ever meet that kid? No. Okay. Did they ever tell you about a kid who climbed a utility pole to get his kite back and he got electrocuted? Yeah. And did you ever meet that kid? How can I meet him if he's dead? How about a kid who got bitten by a stray dog and he got rabies and he started foaming at the mouth? Did they ever tell you about him and did you ever meet him? The boy straightened out the front wheel of his bike and started to back away. My mom and dad don't lie to me. I got onto my feet and my voice was rising. No, how about this one? Did they ever tell you about the kid who went out to play football in a thunderstorm and he got struck by lightning and he got killed? He shook his head. Or how about this one? Did they ever tell you about the kid who climbed a tree with a sharp pair of clippers in his hand and he fell out of the tree and he stabbed himself? Did they ever tell you about either of those kids? Did you ever meet either of them? No. Well, I did. I met both of them. He continued to back away and I shouted after him. What about this one? Did you ever hear about this kid, this stupid kid who wouldn't listen to anybody and he stared at a solar eclipse and he went blind? Did you ever hear about him? Did you ever meet him? The poor kid pedaled away as fast as he could. I didn't watch him go. I bent over and looked down at my own murky reflection in the water. Like the final words of a ghost story, I muttered, Well, you have now. Thursday, November 30th. Mom left the house at 10 o'clock this morning. She was gone for most of the day. I was here alone. At exactly 12 noon, I pulled out my blue suit from the closet, the suit that I had worn to Mike Costello's funeral. I put it on without a shirt, shoes, or socks, and walked out through the patio doors into the backyard. I must have looked like an idiot. I walked straight out until I was facing the gray wall. I had no clear idea what I was going to do. I just knew that I had to do something. For a while I stood there, staring at the ground like an idiot. Then I bent forward and wedged both hands into the space between the wall and the sod. I pulled the sod up and toward me so that the whole piece of it rolled back onto my feet. With its roots sticking up beneath it was a rectangle of white sugar sand, 2 feet long and 3 feet wide. I got down on my knees like an idiot on that upside-down piece of sod and started to scrape away at the sugar sand. I scooped up big handfuls of it, piling them on either side of the rectangle until I reached the dirt below. I stared at that dirt in fascination, thinking how odd it was that I had never seen it before. This was the dirt that we lived on, the dirt of the tangerine grove that we burned and buried and plowed under and coated with sand and landscaped over. Here it was. The sweat started to drip off my forehead, fogging up my glasses. I yanked them off and threw them over to the side. I didn't even know where they landed. Then I bent over that hole in the dirt until my face was an inch above it. I thought about Luis Cruz, a man I barely knew. I thought about Luis Cruz being lowered into this ground, never to come back up. I felt the tears start to well up deep inside of me. Once they started to come, there was no stopping them. I wept and sobbed and poured tears into that hole in the ground. Like an idiot? No, I don't think so. When I was finished, I stood up, brushed the dirt from my knees and elbows, and located my glasses. I pushed the sand back into place and rolled the sod back into position. Then I came back in here and threw my suit into the garbage. It's remarkable, strange and remarkable. I feel like Luis is a part of me now. I feel like a different person.